Here are the 10 most exclusive locations where Texas billionaires love to hide, and they only get crazier as we go. You're about to see a town of 580 people with 0 stores, a neighborhood where a former U.S. president lives full-time, and an enclave where families pay $4 million just for a school district. Let's get into it. Number 10. Preston Hollow, Dallas. We're kicking this off with a neighborhood so secure it has a former president of the United States living in it full-time. George W. Bush's house is right here in Preston Hollow, which means there's a permanent Secret Service detail parked in the area. And honestly, that's just the start of the guest list. Mark Cuban keeps a place here as well. And if that's not enough, Cowboys and Rangers players who found the stuffier, old-money neighborhoods too formal also come here to actually relax. This is basically where Dallas keeps its heavy hitters. So what's the pull? Well, it's the space. Preston Hollow sprawls out north of downtown with homes averaging around $3 million, but the real estates routinely blow past $10 million because buyers here want room. Room for full-time staff. Room for guest houses. Room for security setups that go way beyond a doorbell camera. And here's the clever part. All that land buys you privacy through distance instead of walls. You're not boxed into some tiny gated cul-de-sac. Your nearest neighbor is just far enough away that nobody's tracking your business. And that's exactly why a certain kind of wealth loves it. This isn't crusty inherited trust fund money. This is modern, recently earned money. The executives and the celebrities who want to host a weekend barbecue without a single neighbor silently judging their caterer. Think about the dinner party energy for a second. In the older Dallas enclaves, families are quietly comparing banking dynasties. In Preston Hollow, you might be standing next to someone who actually ran the country. One neighborhood has history. This one has relevance. But Preston Hollow uses sheer acreage to keep the world out. Our next spot in Houston filters people out a different way, with a moat made entirely of horses. Number 9. Hunters Creek Village, Houston. Picture a gated community with actual polo fields inside it, and you've basically understood the entire filtering system of Hunters Creek Village. Because if you can't comfortably afford horses that cost more than a Ferrari, you are simply not getting through the gate, and that's the genius of it. The polo isn't really a hobby here. It's economic gatekeeping disguised as a weekend pastime. Keeping a string of polo horses runs into 6 figures a year, every year, just for the privilege. That single line item quietly eliminates almost everyone. Now, Hunters Creek is one of 6 separate little villages that make up Houston's famous Memorial area, each with its own government. And here's a tiny insider tip. If you just say you live in Memorial without naming the exact village, every real Houstonian instantly knows you're not actually one of them. The specificity is the password. About 4,400 people live here, behind 24-hour security, on grounds kept up by full-time crews, in homes that run around $2 million, and are built on the assumption that you'll be hosting extended family and entertaining guests whose last names are on the sides of downtown buildings. These are oil tycoons from the wildcatting days, and energy executives who climbed high enough that being recognized became a problem worth paying to solve. And the country club? You can't just write a check. Membership requires sponsor letters from families who've personally known yours for years. Money gets you to the gate. Connections get you through it. What makes Hunters Creek fascinating is that it's the rare spot where serious cash and a few good references are actually enough. You don't need to be 4th-generation Houston royalty just yet. You just need to prefer polo to publicity. Speaking of staying out of sight, our next stop takes invisibility to a whole new level. It's a town most Texans couldn't even find on a map. Number 8. Westover Hills, Fort Worth. Here's a riddle for you. What do you call a town with 580 people, multi-million-dollar mansions, and not a single store, restaurant, or coffee shop anywhere inside it? You call it Westover Hills, and the people who live here wouldn't change a thing. This place is a tiny dot on the western edge of Fort Worth that looks like it got frozen in 1955 and decided that was just fine. Tree-lined streets, grand arched entryways, circular driveways that signal money without ever shouting it. And there's a reason there's 0 commercial activity. When only 580 people live somewhere, you simply can't support a single business. So residents just drive into Fort Worth proper for anything they need, And the entire social life happens behind the gates of private estates where the same families have been gathering for generations. No cameras, no outsiders, no record. Speaking of the quiet flex that stays totally under the radar, no logo, just smart. That's what pulled someone on our team to the Pulse R8 Smart Ring. It tracks your heart rate, your sleep, and your workout straight from your finger. A week on a single charge, 100 days with the case, and it's fully waterproof. The part that got us was the price. Under $40, a fraction of what the big-name rings cost, because it comes direct instead of through the retailers that mark everything up. If you're watching on your TV, pause and scan the QR code on screen with your phone camera, or tap the first link in the description. Because what's wild about this place isn't the houses. It's how its old money treats a fortune. But here's what's actually wild about the money here. This is old Fort Worth oil, gas, and real estate wealth that got established back when Dallas was still deciding whether to compete with Fort Worth or just cooperate. And these families specifically chose Fort Worth because the culture here doesn't demand that you perform your wealth. No endless charity galas. No social ladder climbing. They just want to disappear. And get this, they treat their houses like heirlooms, not investments. While the rest of the world flips property the second the market peaks, these homes get passed straight down the bloodline, decade after decade. Let that sink in. They are so wealthy that a multi-million-dollar mansion isn't an asset to sell, it's just the family house. That kind of quiet, rooted continuity? Newer money literally cannot buy it at any price. Westover Hills doesn't need you to know it exists. That's not modesty. That's a level of confidence that predates social media by about 100 years. Now, that was old money perfecting the art of vanishing. Watch what happens when brand new tech money tries to pull off the exact same trick. Number 7. Westlake, Austin. When people talk about wealth flooding into Austin, they picture downtown condos and trendy East Side renovations. They're looking in the wrong place. The real money went up into the hills, to Westlake, where the tech executives quietly escaped the exact chaos they helped create. And the irony here is just delicious. For years, these are the people, the founders, the VCs, the podcast guests who hyped Austin to the entire planet. They told everyone to move there, so everyone did. And the second Austin got crowded and expensive and loud from all that demand, those same executives bolted straight for Westlake, where homes average around $4.5 million on lots that span full acres with hill country views no downtown high-rise could ever touch. Here's the distinction that says everything. Austin proper got expensive because of demand. Thousands of people moved there after hearing about it nonstop. Westlake is expensive because of exclusivity. The folks up here don't actually want to be in Austin. They want access to Austin without the traffic, the construction noise, and the crowds that showed up after a certain podcast wouldn't stop talking about the place. It's home to Dell and Oracle leadership and the venture capitalists who fund the city's startups, but have zero interest in living anywhere near the gridlock those startups cause. The schools in Eanes ISD rank among the best in Texas, which matters a whole lot more when you're raising kids than when you're partying at a festival. So you get this perfect split. The tech workers live downtown tweeting about how much they love city life. The tech executives live in Westlake on an acre of land and drive in only when a board meeting forces them to. Both claim they live in Austin. Only one of them is telling the truth about their zip code. From new money buying hillside views, let's talk about the Houston families who decided the real flex was buying an absurd amount of dirt. Number 6. Tanglewood, Houston. Forget the house for a second. In Tanglewood, the average lot is around 16,500 square feet, which means before you've even talked about the building, you've already bought enough land to put up a small compound. And that's the whole point of this place. Tanglewood sits just east of the legendary River Oaks, with homes averaging $2.5 million, mostly big custom estates built in the 80s and 90s. It pulled in a younger, hungrier kind of wealth. Energy executives who made their fortunes in the last 30 years, real estate developers, corporate leaders who wanted one specific thing that old money neighborhoods wouldn't give them: freedom. Specifically, the freedom to build whatever they wanted without a historic preservation board telling them they couldn't touch someone else's 1940s vision. So they built one-of-one estates, averaging around 5,400 square feet, with handcrafted details and soaring ceilings that took months to install. Because these aren't cookie-cutter tract homes, they're custom mansions where architects sat down directly with the families. But here's the single number that actually explains Tanglewood, and you have to stop looking at the home prices to see it. Look at the cost of the dirt. Land in Tanglewood goes for about $50 per square foot. A typical Texas suburb? Around $8. So you're paying 6 times more for the empty ground before you've laid a single brick purely because of the address. That's it. That's the flex. People who understand Houston's wealth map know that in Tanglewood, the land itself is the status symbol. The mansion is just what you put on top of it. Now, Tanglewood is about buying the most you possibly can. Our next spot is the complete opposite. It's the insider loophole where the smartest money in Dallas gets the elite life for half the price. Number 5. University Park, Dallas. This one is the best-kept secret of Dallas's smartest money because University Park is basically a cheat code. Here's the loophole. It shares the exact same elite school district as Highland Park, the legendary HPISD, the same top 1% test scores, the same Ivy League acceptance rates, identical schooling. But the homes here average around $2 million instead of Highland Park's $4 million. So you're getting roughly 95% of the prestige while quietly saving yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars. The Dallas families who figure this out call it pure arbitrage, and they are not wrong. And the crowd here reflects that sharp thinking. University Park runs younger, with a median age around 38 versus Highland Park's 45. It's packed with young families who cracked the value equation, finance and healthcare professionals who want the prestige without paying peak prices, and even SMU faculty whose side businesses went public and made their salaries irrelevant overnight. SMU itself sits right inside the town, which, depending on your mood, either pumps in energy and prestige or just creates a parking headache. The culture, though, is the real selling point. It's noticeably less formal than its pricier neighbor. You can show up to a neighborhood event without feeling like you're performing at a charity gala where everyone's silently doing math on your donation. Deals here happen casually, over coffee at Snyder Plaza instead of in some stiff private club. And the market has absolutely noticed. Property values here jumped 75% in just 5 years, which tells you this isn't anyone's consolation prize. It's prime real estate in its own right. The lesson of University Park is simple. Sometimes the value play is the genius play, even when every single person involved has an 8-figure net worth. Why pay double for the same schools and the same streets, just to live one neighborhood over? But a value play only matters when you're weighing your options. Our next spot doesn't care what you can afford, because it was literally just crowned the richest small town in the entire state. Number 4. Bunker Hill Village, Houston. In 2024, Bunker Hill Village was officially named the richest small town in all of Texas. And the funniest part? Almost nobody outside Houston has ever heard of it, even though they've probably driven right past it 100 times without a clue. Tucked into the Memorial area with about 3,700 residents and homes averaging $2.5 million, Bunker Hill is the kind of understated elegance that shows up when oil money decides that being flashy is for people who need validation. There's even a serious piece of prestige hidden in here. The only Frank Lloyd Wright house in all of Houston sits in this village. And that's the kind of credibility a brand new development literally cannot buy, because Wright is long gone, and his work carries a historical weight that money simply can't manufacture. The people here are energy sector leadership and old oil families whose names land on buildings but never on social media. And they chose this village for a reason that goes deeper than nice houses. Bunker Hill actively, deliberately, works to protect what its own official website calls a quiet, wooded environment. Read that again, they consider keeping things peaceful a job that takes constant effort, not just luck. Here's the part that makes economists genuinely pay attention, though. The village has permanently banned all commercial development. Forever. Now ask yourself the question nobody asks. Why would a town refuse businesses that could pour in easy tax revenue? Because when literally everyone is already rich, protecting the vibe matters more than collecting another dollar. They don't market this place, they don't need to. If you're wealthy enough to belong here, someone you already know lives here and can explain why it matters. And if you think permanently banning commerce is extreme, hold on. Our next neighborhood took that exact idea and pushed it past the edge of sanity. by making retail straight up illegal. Number 3. Piney Point Village, Houston. Welcome to the neighborhood that made shopping a crime. Piney Point Village has, written directly into its municipal law, a total ban on all commercial development. Not discouraged. Not zoned against. Illegal. There is no legal way to open a coffee shop, a store, or a restaurant anywhere inside the village limits, and that is precisely how the 3,000 people who live here want it. If River Oaks is where Houston's elite go to be seen at galas, Piney Point is where they go to vanish off the face of the earth. Homes here average around $4 million, sitting on massive lots beneath towering pine trees, with long driveways that wind through actual forest before they ever reveal the house. These estates aren't built to be admired from the street. They're built so the street never sees them at all. The lot sizes are so generous that privacy isn't something you install, it just happens automatically. And like the deepest old money everywhere, these properties stay locked in families for decades, passed down by people who value stability over cashing out, even when developers come knocking with premium offers to tear down and rebuild. The social life runs entirely through private connections and country clubs, because when your neighborhood has legally outlawed restaurants, the dinner party simply becomes the restaurant. But here's what truly sets Piney Point apart, and it's kind of brilliant. Most rich neighborhoods just don't have businesses because residents don't want them. Piney Point wrote the prohibition into actual law. That means future generations literally cannot rezone for a strip mall when the economics shift, no matter how much money gets waved at them. That's not protecting property values. That's protecting an entire way of life, permanently. When you're this wealthy, never having to lay eyes on a Starbucks becomes worth more than any amount of convenience. Now we leave the hidden pine forests behind, because our number 2 doesn't hide at all. It's a dynasty so powerful it runs its own police force. Number 2. Highland Park, Dallas. Multi-generational Dallas families built Highland Park a century ago, and their great-grandchildren are still sitting in the exact same estates today, because around here, moving away is apparently something only people without roots do. This is the Dallas address, and it has been for over 100 years. Highland Park commands an average home price of around $4 million, and it's powerful enough to run its own police force, its own municipal services, and its own zoning, keeping everything pristine in ways a normal city government could never pull off. The population stays under 9,000, even though it's completely surrounded by Dallas sprawl, because the development rules are so strict that density simply cannot creep in. The residents are banking families whose grandfathers literally financed the growth of Dallas, corporate dynasties that have run the same companies for generations. But here's the thing you absolutely must understand about Highland Park. Stop thinking it's about the houses. It has always been about the schools. The HPISD is the engine that locks in generational wealth, and the math is staggering. A Highland Park home inside that district averages $4 million. A comparable Dallas home just outside it averages around $800,000. So families pay a 5 times premium, not for fancier granite countertops, but purely for their children's access to top 1% test scores and Ivy League pipelines. Then those kids grow up and buy right back in for their own children. The cycle never breaks. This is also where formal traditional money lives, the kind where country club memberships get inherited and your social calendar is locked in a full year ahead, because skipping the expected charity gala gets quietly noted by the neighbors whose opinion actually counts. Highland Park doesn't chase Austin's tech headlines or Houston's oil fame. Other neighborhoods just have wealthy residents. Highland Park has wealthy dynasties, where leaving would mean explaining to your kids why you shattered a century of family tradition. A century sounds unbeatable, right? Except our number 1 has been doing this even longer, with money so old and so deep, it makes Highland Park look like the new kid. Number 1. River Oaks, Houston. And here it is, the top of the mountain. River Oaks, where 4th-generation Texas families are still living in the very same estates their great-grandparents commissioned back in the 1940s. That one fact tells you everything about what this place values. Staying put matters more than any amount of money because here, your address is your heritage. The homes average around $3 million, but that number is almost meaningless because the luxury estates here routinely trade for $10 million or far more. Wealth in River Oaks isn't measured in dollars, it's measured in generations. It spreads across 3 full zip codes packed with energy CEOs whose names are on museum wings and hospital buildings, never on social media. This is old money in the truest, purest sense of the phrase. Not just inherited wealth, but inherited addresses, where selling the house would feel like betraying your own bloodline. And here's what makes it the ultimate fortress. You could show up tomorrow with $20 million in cash and still feel completely out of place because you wouldn't understand a social fabric that's been woven over an entire century. The country club doesn't want your check. It wants sponsor letters from families who have personally known yours for generations. The homes sit on enormous lots, shaded by oak trees that have been growing for 80-plus years, passed down like royal titles rather than sold to the highest bidder. While Austin was busy making headlines about tech billionaires relocating, River Oaks didn't so much as blink. While everyone online debated how remote work would reshape real estate, these families stayed exactly where they've always been. Because when tech moguls tweet about discovering Texas, the people of River Oaks don't bother responding. They were already here, quietly building the foundation everyone else is now standing on. When your family's been wealthy longer than Twitter has existed as a company, you don't need to announce a single thing. And that's the map, the 10 hidden corners where the real Texas fortunes actually live, far from the headlines and the highlight reels. I've got to ask, which one shocked you the most? The town of 580 people with 0 stores, or the neighborhood where they made shopping flat out illegal? Drop it in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe to Global Status, because we drop stories like this every single week. Catch you on the next one.